Welcome to Discover Indie Film. I'm Jeff Howard, and I'm very honored today because I have Rani Namani with me. Hey, Rani.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. All right, so you are on the Discover Indie Film podcast because you made a very cool music video called Born Ready, starring an amazing actor who, how old was your son in the video?
He was, I want to say 5 months or 6 months. It was like right around the time when he was starting to teeth. So it must have been, yeah, 5 or 6.
5 or 6.
As you're a father too, so you know how blurry time gets.
Oh my God!
So
Once
roughly.
they're in college, you're like, I can't. How did that happen? But for sure.
Yeah.
But so the wonderful thing about Born Ready is it's fantastic. It stars your infant son, and it's a music video. Hey, at Sherman Oaks Film Festival last December, Born Ready took home the Grand Jury Award for Best Music Video. So,
Thank you.
congratulations. Quality film. I actually recall at the festival, I snuck into the theater to catch the Q&A. So I did get to see your Q&A because I was a real fan of your block, by the way. I love that other film. We were allowed to curse on this. I didn't warn you, but I believe you were in the block with Weirdest Shit.
Yes, I remember that
So
now.
I wanted to come in and see your film on the big screen because Born Ready is just so cool looking, and then I wanted so
Thank you.
as the
Sure.
festival runner, I sneak in and out. They don't let me do Q&As anymore because while we're running 3 screens at once, there's too many fires to put out. So I have to sneak in and catch the Q&As of the films when I can. So
Fair enough. Well, yeah, thanks for stopping by and
yeah,
watching.
well, and that's how I knew for sure it was your son. I heard you say it in the Q&A,
Yes, it is definitely my son.
which I'm sure every public screening of Born Ready, I'm sure someone asked you that.
Yeah, like who the star is. Yeah, yeah,
Is that your kid? Because who wouldn't use their own? Honestly, yeah, 5 months.
yeah,
That's right. That's so okay. So anyway, that's why you're on the podcast, and I believe it's available for people to watch, right?
yeah. Yeah. Now it's on YouTube
On
and
YouTube. So we'll put a link on YouTube for people to watch. And I gotta say, if you're listening to this, I wouldn't mind if you hit pause and watch Born Ready by that link in the show notes, because the music video is under a minute, so you can watch it and then come back and listen to us talk, as if there's spoilers. I don't think there's really spoilers.
yeah, no, not really. But yeah, it is under a minute, so
Yeah, it's under a
have at
minute,
it.
so
We'll
people
wait.
can watch it. And you're an animator, so that
Yeah.
reveals that besides your son being a real human being, uh, most of it's digital animation.
Yeah.
And so that leads me perfectly into my first question that you can spend however long you need to, which is, it's just a fun, creative, animated short, and just so I'm always curious what got people to the point that they can create this kind of thing. So I got to assume you were creative as a child yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved film and animation, loved movies. Growing up, there was a lot of free film school that was happening without me realizing, just watching all the shows, whether it was, Looney Tunes, Tom and Jerry, or it was live action films. So, yeah, it's just one of those things where you gravitate towards what you like. And as with a lot of filmmakers who grew up in the 80s and 90s, my parents got a camcorder, took the camcorder, started doing little magic tricks of the whole pause, take the thing out, pretend that it disappeared, little visual effects tricks, and then just doing really bad tiny films. And then, but it was training your muscle, and it was more than anything, you truly were doing it for the joy of the craft. That was the only thing, right? And that's kind of the beauty of childhood and doing something that you like very early on, where you're not thinking of money, budget, trends, what the world wants. You're just doing it because you love the craft. And so that it's like the purest form of making something that you get to do. So doing that growing up, it got to a point where I'm originally from Lebanon, so I knew I wanted to do something in film or animation, but I just didn't. We at the time the closest thing would be graphic design. So to me, it was like it's either graphic design or architecture, and because there's a lot of architecture in my family. But I, I'm also Canadian, so I got to sneak peek some of the schools, film schools, and animation schools, and see what's out there. And so around the early 2000s, 2003-ish, I decided to go to Vancouver and study animation at Vancouver Film School. And they say it was like a 1 year intensive, and I took it for granted, but they meant it. So like in 1 year you learned what you would learn in like 3.5 to 4 years. And it was, I was at film school along with all my peers from like 7 a.m. to like 2, 3 in the morning. Just walk home, sleep, come back, and rinse and repeat all throughout the week. Saturdays, Sundays, didn't matter. So yeah, just kind of get out of it what you put in. And after that, I just started at a local company in Vancouver called Mainframe at the time. And then from there, a buddy of mine who graduated from the same film school reached out and told me, hey, they're setting up a feature at DNA Productions in Texas. You should apply. And that got me in there. And then from unfortunately, after a movie, they had to shut down because there was just none of the projects were greenlit. So I was talking to PDI DreamWorks at the time, and I'm on a visa, so things were tricky, but it worked out, and I ended up going to PDI DreamWorks, and I was at DreamWorks for 15 years. Felt like I grew up there with a bunch of my friends, and then after that, after 15 years, I moved to Netflix, and I'm still there now, and that's been kind of like my whole path.
Wow, fantastic. Wow, I have so many things to say. I can't help but ask, do you know Chris Brown?
Chris Brown, no.
Because he's
Well,
another
no.
person who ended up at DreamWorks through Vancouver, but now is at Sony Animation, I believe. He's one
Oh,
of our alumni. And
awesome. No,
and and did you do that 1 year? Well, first I want to say that I just want to share with you that from doing this podcast for 9 years, it almost feels like there's just two types of people in the world. People who, when they played with their parents' video camera, just naturally learned to edit in camera and all the tricks you can do by editing in camera. And those people often become filmmakers. Whereas the people who just turned on the camera and put it on six and danced in front of it, yeah, they
yeah.
became actors.
Interesting. Well, what's funny is like I mean, it's interesting you bring up editing because when I was doing it, this was at a time, this was in the 90s. Like we didn't have YouTube, Wikipedia, anything early 90s. Like so when you had a question, it was just there for a while. You didn't get to, there's no way to really answer that question. So I remember in the beginning, my parents were always like huge supporters and like, they saw that there was a spark there and that I loved doing it. And throughout the whole thing, I would learn as I would do these little shorts, but I never knew how they edited. And in my head is like, was it a linear process where you just do one shot after the other. And it's like, how do they know how to set up something and pay it off later linearly? Because I didn't know. The whole idea of nonlinear wasn't a thing.
Yeah,
So
because it's linear when you're doing it in camera. You have to be linear if
yeah,
you're just if you're just using pause.
exactly. So it was really you're just improvising, and so everything. So there's a lot of questions I had, and I was so curious about them, and there were no easy ways to get those answers. And ironically, because I was approaching it linearly, naturally the next thing you go to is like, well, maybe I should like draw. Oops, sorry. Maybe I should. Am I still? Yeah.
Yeah, I had. By the way,
Uh,
there was nothing to say oops about on this end. Everything
oh,
was
okay,
smooth.
cool. My screen, someone was calling me and it went to my screen. Anyway,
Zoom
um,
did a good job of keeping it silent, I guess.
thank you. Thank you, Zoom. Well, basically, it organically gets you to start doing little drawings and little frames. And so boarding little ideas and thumbnailing those ideas and kind of editing on paper ends up being something that you do because you don't have the answer and you're working linearly and you want to make sure you know what to do, what shot to do next. So,
You said
you know,
editing on paper, you were actually storyboarding.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that's it was like ending up thumbnailing and storyboarding was such a natural progression of not having the answer and choosing how you can make the process more predictable for yourself. So yeah, it all ties in. It's kind of interesting how that happened.
So cool, so cool. And yeah, when you get it's so great when creative children get access to equipment like that because you just discover and yeah, you just naturally came across the hallmarks of filmmaking and animation, which is storyboarding and planning out and yeah, it's just so natural. And
Yeah.
and and did you go right into that 1 year program or did you do university first?
So I did like a 1 year freshman in Lebanon, and the next step was that's what I was kind of checking out the graphic design program to see if potentially that's one. Um, but then at the same time, I was just checking out, Vancouver Film School and a few schools in the US as well. But it made sense since I'm Canadian also to just go there. Um, so yeah, I was looking at all my options, and it just there was something very appealing about it being 1 year, even though you don't know what you're about to walk into. Um, but yeah, they really, put their money where their mouth is, and like you're constantly in classes, and the program is so dense that your perception of time adjusts, and an hour feels like a few hours. So like you just become in this zone for a year, and
And that's the right age for it, right? Because when you're that age, you can you boy, the hours you can put into something when you're young and then like catch 2 or 3 hours of sleep and then start up again, like you can do it at that age.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Any YouTube video about productivity where they tell you, hey, all you got to do is like plan out your calendar. It's like that's not true because like there's time, but there's energy, and you're to your point. When you're younger, that energy is very different. Like the type of energy I have now, especially near the end of the day, is like bottom of the barrel energy. So like I'll sit there, and I think the biggest hit that you get creatively is your diligence drops like drastically. So like at night, if I'm sitting, I'm trying to kind of do something, I'll just be cool with something and be like, it's good enough. And then I have to like stop myself, be like, should I just not continue working right now because I'm letting things through because they're good enough? Or so it's tricky. It's really tricky as you get older, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I'll add, finally, I'll add one. I have to share this with you because we're just having a conversation here. When my Vancouver's my favorite city in the world. In fact, I'm
Oh,
going there. I'm going there next week because my best friend I grew up with now lives there. So,
nice.
so I have my wife and I have a free guest room in Vancouver to use anytime we want. So we always go up in the summer for the Catalano Street Fair.
That's awesome.
And
It's
uh
yeah.
and by the way, when my uncle got his DNA test, it turns out like we're like 7% Lebanese. So
Oh wow.
I'm looking at the Zoom screen, and I'm like, we could pass for cousins, I think. But
Yeah, we got the beard, we got the
the
yeah, the
beard, the
general.
shape, yeah, yeah. So there we go. Lebanese. We love Vancouver. All right.
Nice.
So the Texas thing was just for a while, and then yeah, you came to DreamWorks and then Netflix. So does that mean you're working? You've been working as an animator for quite a while.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where I'm interested in film overall. Like I love the filmmaking process of just everything, touching every department a little bit. But yeah, animation just seemed to be the thing that I veered towards when I went to film school, and it just that part of it of choosing specifically to animate wasn't a conscious decision as much as it was just that's what I enjoyed doing, and then I just got into that, and then that was the department I was in. But it's such a it's never been an easy thing to do, honestly. But it's such a satisfying thing. Like once you animate something, the process is arduous and never really gets easier, but the final product is it's so satisfying to see a character just move and breathe by themselves. Like it really it hooks you up to do the next thing. So I think that's the beauty of animation. Just being able to kind of, as obnoxious as it sounds, like give life to something and then let
No,
it
it's not. It's
kind
not.
of
It's you on the Discover Indie Film podcast. Creative people are allowed
are there okay,
to
cool.
breathe life into things because. And by the way, I mean animation is such a special art form because it really does combine the technical with the artistic and the creative. I mean, you've got to create stuff, but you've got to be so technically proficient to do so.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of, yeah, there's, especially in 3D, obviously, there's a lot of technical aspects. And it's almost like part of your workflow is about how to minimize those technical pressure points so that you can be creative. That's like such a big part of it, right? How can you get the fastest what's in your mind on screen? And a lot of that is about just logistics and how do I, sharpen my workflow and simplify it? And what tool can I use to help with that? So that you end up spending a lot of time doing that, which is not the fun part, right? The fun part is posing the character, it's timing the character. And so it is such a mishmash of a process in 3D where there's definitely a creative side, which is super satisfying, but there's also a lot of technical stuff that at the beginning, it's like you got to really love animation to keep being cool with that part of the process until you iron things out and you find your workflow, you know?
For sure. For sure. And I can't help but note that I think you mentioned an architecture background in the family. And
Yeah, there's,
let's be honest, creating a blueprint, right? And then
yeah.
building something from it, that's what you're doing,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. And I think it's interesting you mentioned that because I do feel like that's the part of any creative craft, right? Like it's in any craft where it's a laborious process to get the final result, you always see the final kind of look of the process be, okay, let's try things quickly and roughly, and then once we have an idea of all the pieces that work together, all the big pieces, then we'll go in and start refining. So whether it's architecture, whether it's music, writing, animation, it all kind of has a little bit of that same creative flow, you know?
For sure. I mean, obviously we could talk about creativity forever, so I should hold it back. But there's the creative people who have the discipline to do the blueprint and plan out, and they get great results. And then there's the people who just want to wing it, and boy, they've got a that's the one in a million person who, can do the Dave Chappelle thing and step out on stage and wing it. Everyone else
Yeah.
really should plan it.
Yeah, never get tips from that person though. Like they're incredible at what they do, but if they try to explain it as like, I just like, I just do what makes sense to me. It's like, yeah, but what makes sense to you, I have to like study for it and try to get to that place where it now makes sense. So, you
And
know,
by the way, obviously you were working on feature films and things, and you just can't wing it when you're part of a team and everyone has to create things that match and work well together.
absolutely. Yeah. In a way, like when you're animating a shot and your peers animating the next shot, you're putting different hats on. And one of the many hats you're putting is editor. Because like, I mean, there's editors and there's an editing team, obviously, that are taking care of the actual final, the whole, well, not the final, they're throughout the whole process. But what I mean is, you do have to consider how your shot how the rhythm of your shot and the beats and the acting is going to tie into the next shot. And do you cut with a little eye dart or do you cut before the eye dart? Like that's you're kind of editing your beats, and so that's one of the many hats you have to put to make sure that, like you're saying, it's collaborative and it's working as a whole. So
Yeah. And clearly because you made your own film the whole way along, were you also always thinking of little side projects for yourself? And I'm actually curious because I we uh one of our alumni had actually he was currently working at Pixar when we showed his film, and then Pixar had a very cool program, I think, where as long as you were getting your work done, like you could make your own short
yeah, yeah.
in your spare time using their tools and infrastructure, which was pretty. I don't know if you were able to do that and make your own
Um,
things here and there, or would you have to make your own things like at night on your own computer if you were able to have the bandwidth to make your own works away
yeah, I
from.
mean, in my case, I never. ended up using studio resources. And now even more than ever, I'm just using Blender on my computer, and it's just great. So yeah, it's always been like a very um, specifically with animation because I've done live action with a bunch of my friends, and that's a whole different beast. But with just anything that's on the screen, like animation, I tend to just do it, in my little cave, and not worry too much about scaling up and having a lot of people just because it is really small and you're 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 trying to make something without worrying too much about the production side if you have that choice. And I think as soon as you have a lot of people on it, you have to make sure that things aren't breaking. You're on call. And so sometimes it could reach that, right? You can start small and scale up. And actually, I'm working on a short now where I started small, but I'm probably going to scale up. Um, but it's almost like because it's personal, you can scale up when you feel it's time to scale up. It doesn't have to be like, this is how we make things. It's you just let the project kind of speak to you and see what it makes sense for that project.
And you revealed something interesting, which is for fun, you've done some live action shooting. So it wasn't
Mhm.
so clearly your creative streak extends beyond animation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not that personal projects it's more like being excited about some idea that you come up with is really the spark is the origin, and that becomes a personal project. But so I'm not generally thinking of like I like there's a lot of personal projects that I have, but it's not that I like to do personal projects. It's more like I just get excited about an idea and I'm like, well, I just want to make it, and so that becomes a personal project.
Actually, I was
Um,
gonna say, because you're a natural storyteller, obviously. So every once in a while you'll have an idea for a story that could be animated at home. Sometimes you have an idea for a story that you got to pull some friends and put them in front of a camera. So right. So you're a storyteller, I think.
yeah, I mean, I do definitely like to tell stories, and regardless of the medium, I feel like there's a lot of ideas actually that I have that are live action ideas, but just the nature of my career and where I'm at and my tool set and the people I know, it just I have so much more leverage and it's more possible to make it in animation. So a lot of the ideas that are live action end up to me becoming animation, which is interesting because like one of the things that you hear a lot is like when someone's making an animated film, they're often asked like, well, why did you choose animation? Doesn't feel like it lends itself to animation, and I feel like it's kind of unfair for animation because why does animation have to have a reason for it to be that medium? Like, with live action, you can do anything. So to me, it doesn't, the reason for something being animated doesn't have to be because the material lends itself to have to be animated. I think just you like for me, the reason is logistical. That's what I could do. So I have the tools for it. That's why it's animation. It
Well,
could be
yeah,
any reason, really.
yeah. Plus, I mean, I bet a lot of people wish they had those tools, and like God, if only I could animate, then I wouldn't, because I certainly meet those filmmakers who had an idea for a short and like, gave themselves a lot of financial burdens to get it made, shooting it live action, and if they had the skills to do it over 6 months of running, hopping on the keyboard at night, they probably would have. But
Yeah.
you've got the skills.
Well, and it's a fun process because like with you're jumping from modeling a character, which is, sculpting, and then you get to like the character. You get to, I mean, some parts I'm not that good at. Like rigging is for me very scary, but there's tools that help. And so there's parts of the process that are tricky, but there's multiple parts that are so fun. So in animation, you get to jump around these different crafts, and there's something so satisfying about putting them all together and then seeing the final thing.
Very cool. And while you've been doing this in your career, have you made well, I guess I'm asking, have you made things and been hitting the festival circuit sort of every couple years, or was Born Ready sort of an exception?
No, I mean, for some of the live action stuff, my colleagues and I, who like we all co-directed together, we kind of submitted them to festivals, but there's no consistency if you look at the timeline. Like I think a lot, there'll be like a giant gap of several years and then finally something, and so. because I have a day job, it's almost impossible to find the time to make something. Like Born Ready, I would have loved to actually make it like a 2 minute full-on music video, but it just there's no time. You know how life goes. So a lot of it really is just making use of your time and then making sure you don't bite more than you can chew. So yeah, it's just for 46-ish seconds is what I could do, for example, for that one. But I'm still interested. I've always been interested in just making the whole song because I like doing music too. So maybe one day I'll at least finish the song. We'll
I
see.
hear you. I hear you. And it must have been extra. So you love the song, and then you just visualize the you looked at your son, and you kind of did that inspire the idea? Was it inspiring to know that you could shoot your son and use him? Because the funny thing, I am not comparing your son to a squirrel, but a couple years back we had a hilarious music video that someone made where his wife in Northern California, uh, hey Daniel, had been feeding squirrels in their yard for so long that they were all tame. And he shot the squirrels against the grass that worked as his green screen. And then he made a whole music video starring squirrels.
Hmm.
So I feel like you shot your toddler and then put him in this digital environment, which is not that different. You took someone real you took a living thing, in this case, a human being, and built a music video around it.
Yeah, I mean, it's for me the idea came from like when he was first born, and like, just seeing him as an infant and how automated his actions are, right? Like there's just pure programming. He knows how to breathe and drink milk and not choke, and so just seeing that kind of sparked the idea of Born Ready. You're born ready, basically, and um, uh, you're kind of born with drivers installed in you, and that kind of a little bit got me into the idea of driving drivers, maybe like a car. And so one thing leads to another. You let it. All you can do is just give it the ground to grow, and then see where it takes you. And eventually, I was like, oh, it could just be something where he's just after just getting the milk, and then you can see how he's born, and then right away he's got a mission. So that's kind of where the idea started. And then and then there's like little moments that might not feel related, but then eventually you relate them. So when I would hold him, sometimes I'll hold him and then I have to spin him because I'm taking him, for example, off the bassinet. And, uh, his back would be to me. And I remember like I was holding him and I'm like, started going like this, like, oh, he's like walking almost, right? And that became the shot of him walking. I was like, oh, so maybe he walks to his car. So like something like that ends up creating a story beat. And so again, like the best thing you can do is just be open to any source of inspiration and then see if you can make sense of it, as opposed to like, not that there's anything wrong with starting with just the structure, but I feel like the material's the tough part, really, and structuring it together could be challenging, but it could also be fun, and you can kind of get there if you have the material. But if you're trying to structure and then you don't have the material, then you hit so many walls because you're like, all right, well, what interesting things can happen here? So to me, it was just about being open to any material that comes to me, and then eventually making some kind of sense out of it.
Honestly, I think that's why it resonates with viewers and why it resonated with our jury, because what you just described is so natural. I mean, honestly, I've from ever since I noticed it, I've just been amazed that when you hold a newborn or at a certain age, the eye contact, just the fact that they're making eye contact with you. I'm like, how does this little thing that allegedly is just seeing like dark and light right now is looking me in the eyes, and I'm feeling like it's kind of it really is an amazing thing that
Yeah, it is.
what is built into us instinctually.
Absolutely. And when you experience it, it's kind of like when you go, you have to you have to be there to know what I mean. It's like when you're there and you're experiencing it firsthand, it really is magical, you know.
It really is. And so you translated that magic into a story and you made it. All right, so now the question every animator always gets asked. I bet you now could finish my sentence. How long did it take to
Yes.
animate the nearly a minute? I imagine because you have a full-time job, obviously, like the hours were spread,
Very, yeah.
but but it still had to
Uh,
be time intensive, right? Because you
yeah, I want to say somewhere between 4 to 6 months of like doing an hour or two every other night. So it was, yeah, it was, I if you were to take all the hours and condense them, potentially 2 months. But yeah, just not being able to kind of
yeah.
work consistently, I think.
Were it a full-time job, it might have been 2 months of 12-hour days or whatever, but instead
Yeah.
you spread that out. How cool that you were working on it when during the first birthday party.
Yeah, actually, you're right. And I do think it was done around or close to that time. Yeah, I mean, what was interesting is not that there was any deadline clearly, but the one deadline ish or one kind of stress point was I need to try to get the shots before he starts teething. Because for that last shot when he's smiling, I just want it to be a baby face smile with no teeth. And actually, by the time I shot that, there was one tooth that came out, so I had to digitally remove that one tooth. So he has a tooth in that shot,
Right, but you
but
wanted that you wanted all gums. You had a vision.
well, because also, yeah, because like the idea is, well, he just was born, and so he has to feel young enough by the time the short ends. So yeah, I was like, no teeth. That was a rule.
Excellent, excellent. So you put in the time and in this case, because you knew it was a music video, I guess you didn't have to deal with post sound.
Yeah, actually, in this case, I what I did is I chose the tempo, and then I just started storyboarding and doing the animatic, and knowing that although I don't have the music, I know that the genre is going to be like a synthwave type song, and I know that I'm going to use this timing, right? So then you can just really put whatever song you make as long as it just has that tempo. So that's kind of how it happened, where I was able to create the story basically, and then um, sit down and try to nail down a song that works.
And actually, I don't have from our from the info we gathered from you when we had the film at the festival. It is it a song? Where'd you get the song?
No, I made the
Did you
song.
made it? Yeah, you wrote the song too. You created the music to it. So
Yeah.
you just
So you
had to
can you have the
you
freedom
knew the
of choosing.
tempo and right. So you also could have given yourself composer credit if you wanted.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like, you know what actually chose the timing of the whole thing is the shot of him walking. It's like, all right, well, this has to work, which means it could either be double
Right.
beat or it could be one beat for each. So
You're right, right. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. That
Yeah.
actually was the reason.
That's so cool. That's so cool. And now so there you go. So that proves also that you're a creative person who also plays around with music too, because
It makes me happy. Like that, honestly, any kind of creation, just it's very satisfying because in a way you're learning from it and it makes you feel like you're growing. And even though we're aging, mentally you feel like you're still growing. And I think that's a huge part of it, just feeling that growth, you know.
yeah, I know as someone I won't share my age or my mom's age, but it's the numbers are getting pretty big these days. And no, you never grow up actually. That's just a myth and a hoax.
Yeah.
She's well over 80 and still kind of a kid and I'm creeping up on 60 and I'm like I don't feel grown up yet. Like it's different. We're always and maybe it's because we live in a world with all this changing technology that we're always learning the new things, but I don't know. It's
Maybe, but yeah, I agree with you. Like I feel like you are who you are. Like you're you. And you
yeah,
know, from the I'm sure the impression you get what it's like when you see someone walking down the street and you take a snapshot in time and you start to have assumptions of the person's character, which is horrible. Like you shouldn't, but you get an impression of just where they are, where they're like. But you're probably 100% wrong, and you have no idea who they are, what they do, what. It's just so much of that feeling of like, oh, someone's an old person is it really is just a visual impression, but deep down, they're probably young and they're probably excited about the future. Who knows? Maybe they're going home to do their project. You just don't know. And so I think, yeah, that identity of who you are never really goes away. I agree.
Yeah,
You feel the same age.
absolutely. And so I assume this means that, you're just going to keep on keeping on. I mean, you have your trajectory. You're working. I assume you're working on like series and features, or what kind of stuff are you animating in with I mean, in your career. I'll just say in your career because I bet it doesn't feel like a job.
Yeah, not fully like a job. I would say like yeah, like I agree with the motto of like do what you love, and but I think the second part of the motto of like do what you love and then you'll never work a day in your life. Not exactly, but definitely the best choice you can do is still to do something that you love, because of course there's going to be the business side and then the just the employee side, and but at least you're doing something that you love. And yeah, in my case, most of the projects are features. I did get to work a little bit on a TV show, but I'd say 99.9% was features. So there's a certain rhythm to them, there's a certain way. But alongside the features, like I said, a lot of the ideas are shorts that I have, and I have a group of friends. Shout out to Carlos Bana and Carlos Portolas and Nedia said, like you know, on the side, like there's always these projects bubbling, and you have your group of friends that you inspire each other and just kind of send stuff, and they send stuff, so that helps you also. It's nice to have that because, in general, when you're working on a feature, there's a certain rhythm and there's a certain type of films that need to make money. And so shorts is where you can kind of do something that's pretty crazy, pretty not, could be niche, very experimental. So there's a certain amount of creative outlet that you get with shorts that you can't get if it's like the job, your actual job. So you kind of need both in a way to complete each other. And that's been kind of nice.
For sure, especially right timeline wise, because an animated feature is what, a 3 to 5 year process? Three,
Yeah.
2 to 3?
Especially for like the directors and the producers and like the front end. I mean, they're
Yeah.
on average a director and producer is on a show like 4 years. I think for animation, if you're like a supervising animator, it could be a little over a year, maybe a year and a half. Sometimes the projects keep getting pushed, and it ends up being like more than 2 years in animation. But generally speaking, for animation, it's like a year
Yeah.
ish.
So doing your own fun side project that you can get done in 3 to 6 months, that that helps you're getting more carrots.
Yeah, yeah. It's nice because like if you're working on your short and then things are just slow, well, the next day you have to go to work, and well, not, you don't have to, you get to go to work, and you're actually like doing something very different, and you come back to your short and maybe you solve the problem, and vice versa. Sometimes you're just kind of at work and something feels like stale, but then you go back home and you have your personal project. So I do think it's kind of important to have both. Um, Depends on what drives you. For me, it's important to have both because it just kind of they feed off of each other in a way.
For sure, for sure. So that means you've already answered my question of are you going to keep doing your own projects on the side?
100%. Yeah.
Will there ever so if you decided I'm going to make a 15 minute like in your spare time, that would be just, is that just too much, or is that a possibility?
That's what I'm doing now. So
That's what you're doing now.
I'm working on a personal project that I've been like I told you, like I have my group of friends, and so yeah, I'll get their opinion, and you know one of the things they said is, all right, you got to shorten it, because like I think it was getting, actually I think it was hitting like almost 20 minutes, and I'm like, there's no way I can make this. And so it's just really helpful to kind of show your peers and make sure that you get an objective view of your short. So I'm working on something that I'm trying to get it down to 8-ish minutes. One, just for the story, if it doesn't need it, why make it longer? But two, for being able to make it. So we'll see how this one goes. The nice thing is every project feeds off the next. So Born Ready, I was already like a big Blender fan before that, but doing Born Ready really forced me to understand things in Blender even more, and you kind of feel more confident to take on something a little bit bigger. So this next thing, it's mainly in Blender, and because of Born Ready, I can kind of I know what I can and can't do and where I need to kind of develop things. So I'll be able to make more, but like I was mentioning to you earlier, I think I'll end up scaling up at some point to have a team to help me because yeah, otherwise it's going to take 50 years,
Yeah, that's
which
the
I don't
thing
want.
is I was doing the math in my head. If around a minute while one is, you do have to probably keep a roof over your head and your family fed.
Yeah.
So if a 1 minute project takes around 6 months in one's spare time, an 8 minute would be 4 years.
Yes. So, and
So the
I,
more efficient you learn to be, the better. And yeah, if it were 20 minutes, now you're talking a lot.
yeah, and that's the thing too, is what you realize is like that whatever part of the industry you're in is like the part that you're worried least. So like I feel like I'm confident that the animation, the acting, like, it'll get there. But some of the other stuff scares me. So, but that's good because it gets me to try to learn it. Um, but yeah, ultimately, it just takes time. So you want to try to scale it up as much as it would make sense for that project. So I know I'm going to scale it up, but I also want to. I don't want to make it too big of a production where that in a way ends up backfiring and ends up being slow because you're kind of having to track a lot of people. And so we'll see how it goes. But the one thing I know is I want to make it. So we'll see.
Well, good instinct. I don't doubt you, but I can share that as a festival runner. So I'm on the selection jury for two festivals, and yeah, when you see a 12-minute short and you're like, wow, that could have been nine, and it would have been, you know what I mean? Like when a short feels
Yeah.
long, oh, someone messed up.
Yeah, because I mean, it's, as much as like it's not necessarily a movie where it could be slow at times because it's a feature and in the grand scheme of things, even though that moment is slow, it's still overall kind of fast of a film. But like for shorts, everything's amplified. So slow is extra slow, fast is extra fast. So you do have to you have to edit to a short as opposed to editing to a feature, which is so different in a way.
Yeah, that's true. It's very different. So different.
Yeah. Same
Actually,
like
so
editing
different.
for.
Yeah, so different. That's why our festival, we decided, and sometimes I debate it in my head, but we've gotten since COVID, actually, since lockdown, we've gotten so many really high quality films that are over 20 minutes, but not feature length, that we did create that third length. And we went from short and feature to short featurette feature. So like 20 minutes or less, 20 to 60, and
Mm,
then 60 and more, because they were getting these wonderful 25, 35, 45-minute films. And they're just such a different creative beast to have them in the same award category as a 12-minute film or a 90-minute film just didn't make sense because
yeah,
it's truly a different art form or
absolutely.
yeah, but
Yeah, no, it's great that you did that though, because like, yeah, it is tricky to fit those long shorts, and so it's nice to be able to still give them the space to be seen.
yeah, exactly. And for them to and I guess it also mattered to the team and I that they would have their own awards category because jurors are human beings, and if there's an amazing 12-minute short and a really equally amazing 32-minute, which one do you think is actually going to get more votes?
Yeah, the one that's watched more, right?
Yeah,
Or
we're human. We're like, I
yeah,
love that. But then when you're going to give a higher rating to the 12-minute, you just are.
yeah,
Like, I don't know. We're human. So anyway,
fair
well, that's
enough.
awesome. Anything else you want to add before we do a quick little wrap up?
No, it's fun. I love these talks because
I
it's
really
always,
enjoyed it too. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, I just feel like we I know what you're working on next, which is always a question, and so congratulations on, you know what?
thank you.
Besides congratulations on the work, congratulations on the family, I mean, very
Thank you.
very clear that you are enjoying fatherhood and that reflected in your work as well.
Well, there's two now. There's a
Congrats!
thank you. Yeah. So, but I like I have so many ideas for what I could do for number two, but honestly, there's just yeah, there's only so much finite time that you can. So but maybe one day, maybe I'll do something when they're older. Some collaboration
Maybe.
between both of
Maybe
them.
they'll be like, "Hey, we want to do something." I I was enlisted. There was a home from school day once, and she came into my home office and said, "I want to make a movie." I don't know really why. Oh, I think she thought I might put it in the festival. She was probably
Mm.
around 9, and so I said, okay, write it out. She wrote it. I was her cameraman and then her editor, but I let her I mean, sometimes I said, no, trust me, we should shoot this and then this, so they'll cut together. She didn't, but anyway, so kids, when being around you, they're probably going to be creative for sure.
I mean, if that's what they want to do, they know I'll be here. Like I mean, I do a lot of I love writing and sketching and like, actual
Yeah.
physical notebooks. And as I'm doing it now, I'm like, well, they get to have it at some point. Maybe they won't use it, but hey, they'll get to I'll get to share the way I think. So I'm always there for them if they ever want to do anything
Yeah, who knows
artistic.
what tools they'll have when they're in high school. But by the way,
Yeah.
as a younger sibling, I'm just gonna make a little pitch that the number two definitely needs at least a 47-second music video because you don't want them growing up and being like, "Wait, how come my older brother got one and I didn't?" And you'd be like, "I was so busy, I had two kids at that point." So that's
Yeah.
the chip on the shoulder that a younger sibling always carries, I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's in the back of my mind. So it's like I want to make something for him, but it might, yeah, just realistically, it might have to be later when they're older. But as long as I still do it when they're kids, hopefully, or I'm just convincing myself. I don't know.
Or
Like,
you could cheat and shoot number two and slip number two in the same Born Ready video.
I mean, it's crazy. Like I have like in my head, there's a whole continuation of the first one. Like, I wish I can get him. But yeah, this
But
time.
but but time is a finite resource. I get you.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Well, congrats on all that.
Thanks, Jeff.
I will wrap us up so that we can get to our the second podcast we're going to record, where you get to answer those 4 questions that people who listen to the podcast should know about. But if someone's new, because they're Ronnie's friend, just know that the podcast after this one in the Discovery Indie Film podcast feed will be Ronnie answering name 3 films you love, an underrated film, an overrated film, and a lesser known one for people to seek out. So that's everyone gets to do two for one on this podcast because when I started it, I wanted to ask those questions at the end of the podcast. And I think of the first 5 guests I had 9 years ago, like 3 of the first 5 went an hour and a half. They've been dying to talk about their work for so long that I was like, oh my God, if I put the 4 questions at the end, now we're talking 2 hours. So split them into two.
Very wise. You were very wise.
Thank you. Well, necessity was the mother of that invention. All right. So thank you, Ronnie.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
everyone, for listening. If you want to learn more about this podcast, where we talk to filmmakers whose work is on the festival circuit, just go to discoverindiefilm.com. On social media, it's always at DIFwins. Those would be clickable links, by the way. As well, there will be a clickable link to Ronnie's Instagram and to the music video Born Ready. If you want to learn more about the film festivals, including Sherman Oaks Film Festival, where we showed Born Ready, just go to discoverindiefilm.org. That is the nonprofit that runs both Sherman Oaks Film Festival and Film Invasion Los Angeles. Film Invasion Los Angeles is every summer. Sherman Oaks Film Festival is every winter. Actually, it's always the weekend after Thanksgiving now, because we found out that's a really good weekend. I shouldn't say that so that other film festivals don't grab it, but we used to be before Thanksgiving, and after everyone's like relaxed, it's time to watch movies. But for a couple weeks before Thanksgiving, everyone's stressed about what they're going to cook, I guess. So anyway, those are the 2 festivals, and they did get a cousin now. I call them sisters. Sherman Oaks Film Festival and Film Invasion LA are sisters. They got a cousin down in Lima, Peru this year. Film Invasion Lima launched in 2026. We're definitely doing it again in 2027. In fact, Valentine's weekend, which is also President's Day weekend. So it's a 3-day holiday up here. So, hopefully it'll be winter in North America and it's summer in South America. So why not go to a beautiful, romantic South American capital for Valentine's Day weekend? This might become a tradition for my wife. So anyway, I'll thank Ronnie one last time.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you, everyone, for listening.